Welcome along. I had some questions from Paul, a viewer, about my process of creating custom liveries for AMS2. So in today's video, I put together a tutorial. Hopefully you can learn how to create custom skins for yourselves and get them into the game. It's a bit long, so I'll leave some timestamps to take you to the more important steps along the way that you should check out. You might want to skip some of the bits that you may already know about. We'll talk about how to export DDS files from Photoshop, and we will talk about how to customize the XML files and the folder structure that you'll want to set up to house these DDS files that you end up creating. You'll see me using Photoshop in the video. Hopefully you have an equivalent software that allows you to export your artwork. And if anyone out there has any tips or techniques they want to share, you can leave those below in the comments. All right, let's get started. When you're creating liveries for AMS2, a handy thing to have are the IDs displayed in the game. And to have this work, you need to open up Steam, go to your library, check out Automobilista and right-click it. Go to Properties, and under the Advanced Users may choose to enter modifications to their launch options, add -show livery IDs here. Once that's done, close, and you can close Steam. And now anytime you open up AMS2, you'll see the ID of the livery of each vehicle in the game. And we'll see that later when we jump into AMS2 to test out our design. Once you've decided on which car you want to make a livery for, head over to Riza Studios forum, and here they have all of the livery overrides and templates you need. I'll leave a link to this in the description for you. Scroll down. In our case, we're going to work with the BMW M1 Pro car for an upcoming last to first video I want to make. So we'll take this, save it. It'll end up in our downloads folder here. I've already downloaded it. Now we can start working with it. Okay, now that we have the download here, we're going to extract it. And we will be presented with the body template and then the interior windscreen template as well. We may not work with this in this template. We may just work with this main body file for this process here. But let's take these. I'm going to cut these and take these over to a different folder. And what I like to do is put them directly into the folder where I'll be exporting the DDS files to. It just makes my workflow a little bit better. In this case, we're going to be working with the M1 Pro car, and you'll find the override folders in Steam, Steam Apps, Common, AMS2, Vehicles, Textures, Custom Liveries, Overrides. Some part of the front part of this path may be different for you, but this should all be the same here. Let's head into this M1 Pro car folder, not rename it, and let's paste our Photoshop docs. Now what I'm going to do is even go a little bit further here and make a new folder. This is for my team. So this is helpful to help you organize different liveries for different teams. You don't have to do this, but I like to do it to keep things a little bit more organized. So we're going to call this last to first, this folder. And we'll just take these and put them into that folder. Okay, here's where things get a little bit more technical. What you'll find in the overrides folder is an XML file here with the last bit of it as _dist. Open this file with Notepad, and it gives you some instructions. Create a copy of this file without the _dist part and place it beside this one. And it clearly shows you what your new XML file should be called. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's close this. We will copy this. We will paste it. We will rename it to BMW _M1 Pro car. Now, what this file is going to have is a lot of stuff that you don't need. We can strip out a lot of the content of this XML file. What we want to keep in this file is just the instructions for AMS2 to use our new livery for the ID that we are overriding. And if we look down here, we can see this will be the bit that we want to keep. Everything else, well, mostly everything else we're going to get rid of. We definitely want to get rid of the commenting section here and up. So starting there all the way up, and everything from the end of this here down to here, but keep your closing XML user overrides right there. All right, there we have the starting of our new override file, XML file for our BMW M1 Pro car. There are a couple things we're going to fix up on this. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is just check that the livery number makes sense here, and it's okay for now. We can change this later. This is the ID of the livery that we're going to override with our new design. This is the name of our livery, and this can be anything really. It doesn't really matter. But to make sense for us, we're going to call it last to first, and we're going to be number 3. We're going to talk about this in a second. There can be problems here, and I had to read a little bit before I figured this out. So we're going to come back to that. Now, the rest, this is a RISA issue. They didn't name these very well because it's a little bit confusing. They're going to use subfolders for their DDS files. They should probably make these all the same. So we will do that. And we named ours last to first, as we can see there in the background. Copy that. And replace all of these so they are the same. We may not touch on SPEC or Fresnel files in this tutorial, but we will for sure go over the main body file. What I'm going to do is name those DDS files after the livery ID. So replace the 86 with 60. Just so we're not dealing with a bunch of different numbers all over the place. Why didn't you make this number 60? Yeah, leave me alone. Okay. So let's save this. And let's talk about this base livery thing here, because I didn't see a lot of documentation about this, and you can get stuck on this possibly. Okay, I've opened up both of the XML files we have now in our folder here for the Pro car, and I wanted to explain why this was going to give us difficulty. Default base livery does not exist to be used for the BMW Pro car. What you'll end up with is like a red livery in the showroom, and you won't know what's going on. So what you have to do is make sure to check the original dist file and check for the available base liveries that you can use. And it's not very well documented. So here are the available ones you can use. Silver wheels, black wheels, etc. Check for these down the page. Now, what I know I've used in the past is the black wheels chrome paint base livery. So I'm going to copy this and bring it over and replace default with black wheels chrome paint. So we've done some work with this file. We cleaned up the naming structure of the folder paths so that they match what we're using here for our team folder. And we've set up our file names for our DDS files that we will create in the design process. And we've chosen a base livery that actually exists and works for this vehicle. We want to test our XML file. We want to quickly export a DDS file for the body of the car and open up AMS2 in a showroom just to make sure we have all of our file structure working for us. So let's open up. You know what we're going to do too is we're going to rename this last to first, and we'll call it underscore BMW M1. All right, that's a better file name. Now, what we're going to want to do is export a DDS body file and test whether our XML files are all structured properly and all of the paths are working the way they should. So we're going to open up Photoshop here and get started on that. Okay, we're in Photoshop. We've opened up the template that we downloaded for the BMW M1 Pro car. And we see 2 layers. One is the wireframe layer, and we see the base layer, which is the paint used on the car, basically. So you'd have a Currently, you would just have a very navy livery with some weird wireframes on it. So fine, let's use that to test. And what we want to do is save as a copy this file as a DDS file. Now with Photoshop, you need the Intel TextureWorks plugin. I'll leave a link to that website where you can download that plugin for Photoshop if you don't have it. Other software like GIMP may natively support saving DDS files. Your mileage may vary there. So let's change that for this file. Now let's change this to our DDS file name that we wanted for our car, which is body 60. Make sure it's in our last to first folder. We'll save it. It's going to prompt us to choose what compression level we want this DDS file to be saved in. We want to choose the DXT1 version of compression, or BC1 here in Photoshop. Look for DXT1 maybe in other software. And I don't need to change anything else there. I'll just hit OK. And there we go. We should have a DDS file to check out. Okay, AMS2 is open and we're here to check out the DDS file to see if it worked. We're selecting the BMW M1 Pro car. Just go to a test session or something like that. And we want to select the right livery. Here you can see the ID being shown in the top right corner of the preview images here. That's because we set up Steam to have that show. Here you'll see a gap where we don't have a preview image yet. And that's because we don't have a design yet and we didn't make our preview DDS file. So don't worry about that. That's actually a good sign. If we click it, we see our proper name. This is being pulled from the XML file. That's also a good sign. Don't worry about the missing preview. We'll select this. You'll see again, the previews are not showing yet. We don't have those. Let's go to the showroom though to make sure that our body.dds file is showing. And there it is, our navy body DDS file with our wireframe on top of it. So now it's just a matter of going into Photoshop, adding all of the stickers and paint that you want to the car, exporting your DDS file, and viewing it in the showroom until you're happy with it. Okay, back in Photoshop now, and I just want to show you a technique I use to quickly make edits to the Photoshop file and then view them in AMS2. You don't need to shut down AMS2 in most cases when you're designing the livery to speed up the process of checking out whether something you did works or not. Let's just draw a box. Let's grab like some crazy color here to make a stripe. We'll do that. And we will draw a cool racing stripe down one side of the car. And let's save our DDS file. Control-Alt-S is the keyboard shortcut for Photoshop for saving a copy. We can select DDS. We will update our body 60 file. You want to replace? Yep. Again, it'll prompt us what compression we want to use. We can keep this the same. And we're done. Now, if we head over to AMS2, over on my other screen, there it is. You can see we're in the showroom, but no changes are being shown that we made. But that can be fixed if we just head out of there and we select a different livery. Let's go back to this one. Jump to the showroom. Pretty cool. Back out. Now go back and select your livery again. And head back into the showroom. And we should see our racing stripe is now on the car. So it really speeds up the process not having to shut down AMS2 for every little change you make to your livery as you're playing around with it. Okay, the next bit of the video, I'm going to just play in Photoshop a bit and create the last to first livery for the BMW M1 Pro car. And that may take a little bit of time. You can skip over that part just to see the conclusion of this, or stick around to watch the design process. Hopefully that first part of the video covers some of the basics of getting a simple livery installed and set up and working in AMS2 from scratch. If I missed anything and you have questions, please leave a comment below about that, and I'll try to address it. Okay, back in Photoshop. Now that we know our XML file is configured correctly and AMS2 is able to use our DDS files for the vehicle, we want to get started on the design. So let's get rid of our racing stripe. We won't need that. Look cool, but we're not going to keep it. And to speed up the process a little bit, I already had a design for the M1 Pro car from a previous project, and I have it open here in Photoshop, and we can use this to speed things up. So I stored this in a folder called stickers. It's really handy to keep all of your logos and stickers in a folder. So what I'm able to do now is duplicate this group. It's going to ask me where I should put this, and I'm going to send it over to my other last to first BMW M1 design. And we're going to call it stickers again, and we'll say OK. Now, if we go over to our design over here, we have all the stickers. Now the wireframe got moved below that, so we can just move that up. That's fine. And as you can see, we have a really good base to start from on our new design for the last to first car. So we're going to have to make some color changes and add a couple different logos here, but I think we're about 90% of the way there already. Okay, now that we have this new layer of stickers, we're going to replace some of the things on here. Obviously, the number plate's going to change to our number 3. Unfortunately, the advertising for the 3-lap challenge is going to have to move, Matt. Apologies for that, but send me your new logo for your last to first challenges, and maybe I can throw that on one of my cars. That would be pretty cool. And what else are we going to change? We'll probably remove the Heineken logos to put the last to first logo here, and change up some of the other logos here so that the colors match our last to first scheme. All right, so at this point, I'll probably speed up some of the process. Some of this might be quick to do, but some of it may take a little bit longer. For instance, this might be okay if I merge these shapes and I just change them to use this gradient here. There's an example of a quick change that gets us closer to the last to first branding that we've been using on our skins for those challenges. Okay, so at this point, I'll speed up the video a bit, and we'll see how it all turns out. Okay, at this point, we're really happy with the design. We have everything in the layers that we need them to be in. We've organized our folders here with our stickers and our background body paint in separate folders. We can turn off the wireframe for now, and we can test to make sure all of our stickers are on the same layer. We can just show and hide this. We want to see a blank canvas when we do that. That's perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do now is save our Photoshop file, Control S. Then what we're going to do is Control Alt S to save a copy, and we will override our existing DDS file here. And it's going to ask us what compression we want to use, and we want to stick with just color. We will explore color plus alpha in a minute, but we're just going to save it as color, DC1, and the equivalent of DXT1. Okay, now that that's done, we can fire up AMS2 again, check out our livery ID number 60 in the showroom, and test that everything works. We want to do that before the next step, which will be a little bit more advanced, I'm going to show you how to make some of this shiny and some of this a matte finish on the car. So let's jump over to AMS2 just to check our work before we move on to that next step. Okay, we're back in AMS2. We've jumped into the showroom to check out our livery for ID number 60 of the car that we're replacing the paint job for, and everything's looking great. So this is good news. We'll be able to move forward with our next step of creating a spec layer to turn some of the car into shiny bits and the paint job into more of a matte finish. So let's move back over to Photoshop and I'll show you how I do that. All right, we're back in Photoshop and I'm going to show you how I can make some of the car shiny and some of it have a matte finish. And because we set everything up here in one nice folder for all of the items that we want to become shiny on the car, we can easily just duplicate this layer, group, and we'll call it spec. And you'll see it creates a copy of it right here. So if we hide this, we should see the exact same thing. And that's what you want. Now, let's hide the stickers and the body paint. And what we're going to do is merge this group. And what that gives us is a flattened layer of all the stickers and elements of the car that we want to turn shiny. Now that we have this layer here, this flattened one with all of our stickers, we can just use Photoshop to control, click, and it will select all of those elements here. Now, what we need to do is create an alpha layer of white and dark areas to indicate what we want to be shiny and what we want to be matte finish. So I'm going to go over to channels and I'm going to get rid of the old spec layer that we had for the old livery. That's fine. And I'm going to create a new alpha channel layer here. And I'm going to fill everything that's selected in with white. There, now we have a white layer and a dark layer. Everything that's dark will be matte and everything that is white will be more shiny and reflective. Okay, now that we have our spec layer with our light and dark areas defined, telling the game which parts of the car should be shiny and matte, we want to hide everything in the document aside from the alpha channel here. Now, we just want to save this as a DDS file, but we're going to use a different name this time. We need to save it as body60_spec.dds. And we're going to use a different compression for this. So let's check that out. I'm going to copy that file name and file, save as copy. We'll choose DDS again. And we can see our body paint job there. Here's our spec layer. We will say save. It's prompting us for what compression to use, and this is correct. We want to use color plus alpha, and it supports the alpha layer that we've created on that channel over here. DXT5 is also what you'll see in your software possibly. All right, so here we go. And if we head over to our folder here, you'll see we have a new weird looking file. It's really hard to see what's going on here, but trust me, this will work. It'll tell the game what to make shiny and what to have be a matte finish on the car. Let's jump over to AMS2 one more time just to check and see if that worked. Back over in AMS2 now, and we're checking out our livery in the showroom. After we've exported our spec layer, we want to test that out. Load that up. And it appears to have worked. We can see that there's a matte finish on. Now there's going to be a bit of shine on some of it, but for the most part, you'll see a matte finish to the vehicle now. We head up here and get a good look at it. And anything that was white on the spec layer then becomes shiny. So our stickers down the side here and any logos we have on the car are going to be more reflective than the base paint job. So I really like this. I'm going to keep this like this. The next thing we're going to do is create the preview image that you want to see. And that would be the image that fills in this space here, and when you go to the livery selection screen here. So we're going to be able to create one of these images like this to be used for our livery. Okay, back over in Photoshop, I just wanted to show you I've prepared the preview document here, and the size of the file that you want to use is 2048 by 640. And this is obviously from that other livery that we've sort of borrowed some of the design from. And what we'll do is replace this image with our new livery. What we need to do though is go back into AMS2, get the car out on track or a place where we can get a really good photo of it from the side, which we will then crop away with the background to end up with an image that looks like this. Okay, we're in AMS2. We've got our car out on track here in Portugal. We're facing the wrong way. Hopefully we don't get kicked off the course. But what I wanted to do was position the vehicle in such a manner that the background wasn't too busy here to take a good photo. I've yet to find a super clean white wall in the game to do this in, but someone point that out in the comments and that would be very helpful because removing the backgrounds is kind of the most annoying part of this whole process. But anyway, once you have yourself set up, take your photo, you have your screenshot, and then you'll bring that into Photoshop where you'll crop away the background and create a alpha channel layer for this car as well, for this image, and you'll have your preview image ready. All right, time for the most tedious part of the whole process is removing the background of this. I will record this and speed it up for you so you don't have to sit here and watch the most boring part of the whole design of this livery. Okay, now that we have that all cut out sort of thing, we will cut that and bring that over into our existing preview design file here. We'll paste it. We're almost at the right size. We'll just increase the size a little bit to make it match that other one we have and center it roughly. You don't have to be perfect. And you don't have to be perfect in cropping the car out either. It's only really for your own personal liking. I tend to get a little bit picky with it, but only you really will see this unless you're sharing your livery with other people in your community. Next step for this will be to create the alpha channel for this design, similar to how we did it on the other one here. We're going to steal the effects that we did here, and I'll explain what these do. I'm going to copy the layer style. I'm going to duplicate this side view of the car that we have. We have a second copy of it here. I'm going to paste that layer style on. And what this is I'll just double click this to show you why. It's a little bit of, well, it's one, it's the color overlay to give us black. Two, it's a stroke with about 4 pixels of stroke around the outside of the image. This helps to eliminate any sort of bleeding white area of your preview image. It's hard to explain, but you'll find that you'll have to do that. Otherwise, you kind of get a glowing white outline when you create your preview image. Okay, so what we can do is move this down below the main layer there. So now we have our main image on top of that one. We can delete the old livery design. We don't need that anymore. And what we want to do now is go over and create the alpha channel layer. Just like in the other design for the body paint, we want to just control click this image here. We now have this area selected. Head over to your channels, get rid of any old alpha layers you might have. Get rid of that alpha channel, and let's create a new one. Everything's still selected here. We want to change that to white. And that's good. Now, in the other process, we exported the spec file without activating any other layers, but we actually want to export everything in this case. So turn everything back on here. Head back to the canvas here, and we're ready to export our PREVIEW DDS file. So if we look back at our XML file, it'll be important to know what we named our PREVIEW DDS file. Here it is, PREVIEW 60. So we want to make sure we copy that. Bring this over here. Now we're going to do Control-Shift-S to save as a copy. Select DDS and paste the file name we want to use, PREVIEW 60. Hit save. We'll be prompted again to choose a compression. This time we want to stick again with DXT5 supports alpha. Anytime we are working with an alpha channel over here, we definitely want to export a DDS that allows the use of the alpha channel. All right, we'll hit OK. And that's it. The most tedious, boring part of the process is complete. I would suggest saving this file just for safekeeping. In case you have to come back and make any edits, maybe you didn't get quite enough of the stroke layer style done to eliminate some white outline on your preview image. So you might want to come back in here and play around with that and re-export your preview file. I'm fairly confident that this is going to work because I've done this quite a few times in the past. Okay, we're back in AMS2 and we're checking out to see if our preview image worked. We want to make sure that we can see past the car and have all the background removed. And it looks like it worked. If you're really picky, you can even go into the window here and get rid of those bits in the background so you don't see any of that. I'm not going to worry about that too much. And there's a little bit of white here I can see that, could potentially annoy you, that you might want to fix. But again, you're really the only person that's going to see this unless you're sharing your liveries around with your community and things like that. So at this point, we're done. You'll want to just take a look at the folders you've created here and the items that you have left. And here you'll see the three main things we'll need: the body image, the spec layer, which was a bit of a bonus thing I included in the video here. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to cover that, but I got that in there for you. And the preview image too, which is a bit tedious to make, but it is important to do that. I think it polishes your game up. If you forget to make your preview images, you'll end up with a bunch of blank spots in your liveries in the game, and it's just going to be a little bit messy. So I encourage you to sort out how to make these as well. What you'll want to do is move your Photoshop files out of here and save them somewhere that makes sense, maybe up in the cloud in a Google Drive folder or something like that. And you don't need to have them in the overrides file in the game. It won't hurt anything, but I would save these somewhere else. I just wanted to keep them here while I was working on the design. It's just handier to have everything in the same folder, but we can get rid of the actual Photoshop source documents at this point. Just save them somewhere safe. Wrapping it up, we'll just look at the final file structure of everything we created here. We started out with this dist file here that comes with AMS2 in the overrides folders for the vehicles. I'll do another one here just to show you. You can see it exists here for this one too. Let's go back to our Pro Car. We took this file, we duplicated it, we stripped out all of the bits we didn't need, and we only kept the paths that we required for our livery. Now, that is still containing the Fresnel layer. That will be another tutorial if you want to see how to create chrome sections on a car. It's very similar to the spec layer. It's done with a dark and light bit of artwork on the car, but it is exported as a different compression, similar to the compression DDS file that we did for the body. So let me know in the comments if you want to see a tutorial on how to do that. But otherwise, we have all of these DDS files inside of our team folder here. And I'll just close this now. Well, I'll move it over here. And you'll see here's the folder. And here are the key files that we need, these three. Again, let's move these out of here. I'm going to just take these and throw them on my desktop. Save them here, and I'll save them somewhere better, like up in the Google Drive or something like that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm fairly new to making these tutorials, so I hope it was helpful for you, and have fun making liveries in AMS2. Have a great rest of your day.